So doing something to where it's not going to have that much an effect as far as exposure wise and your safety protocols and all of that, where you're not facing those type of challenges and contracting the virus or anything like that. And your players and your staff, your organization isn't at risk. So, we talked about possibly, not a complete bubble, but limiting it to maybe to like we have spring training, Florida and Arizona, and have those teams that are there just play each other in those stadiums and throughout the season. Yes, it will be challenging, or just have it several states where they'll house the different teams to go ahead and eliminate the travel. Maybe, yes, cut down maybe a little bit on the season, or make an attempt at having an entire season, but come to a collective agreement that will work for both parties. But don't try to do this at the 12th hour when you're just days away from kicking off spring training or kicking off the season, because we saw what happened last season for 2020 and how ugly that got. So let's hope that 2021 goes a lot smoother. But one of the things that with that also comes, and one of the challenges that we'll be facing is the collective bargaining agreement is set to expire on December 1st. So there's another hurdle that we'll have to, jump. And what does that mean for the 2022 season? Well, we with all of these challenges, the whole talk about money and how it's affecting the players, how it's affecting the organizations, how it's affecting MLB as a whole as well. So that, brings you into the next season. And will we see a lockdown of some sort, a lockout? Because we saw in between 1972 and 1995, baseball had 5 strikes and 3 lockouts. And I know this is something we've kind of circled around and we've mentioned in passing with all the different situations and challenges that have been faced between MLB and the MLB Players Association. And we know how that relationship is. It's not, so tight and lovable there. So it's a fractured relationship there. So what will we come to see in the 2022 season as we approach it, and as the CBA comes to expire in December?
We know that the relationship between the players, the union, and MLB is not good. It's really toxic, and the fighting that they had, the back and forth they had last year to come up with 60 games. And then this scenario, this situation here, where the players and the MLBPA are kind of bum rushed with this proposal from MLB a month before they're supposed to report to Arizona and Florida. That didn't make things any better, Joe, as far as the relationship goes. And there's, from all the articles and accounts that I've read, and I'm sure you've read, there's just the players in the union, they have no trust in Rob Manfred. They don't want him to have any more power than he has right now. And that's one of the main reasons why they rejected it, other than the fact that they came at them with this at the 13th hour. And that's I'm sure they took that as a form of disrespect, that they couldn't take the time after the World Series was done, after the Dodgers had won their World Series. They had all that time between then and now to come up with this thing. But now you come up, right now to do this thing, this is the worst possible time you could do this. So things are not rosy, and it won't be any rosier by the time December 1st comes around, when the CBA is set to expire.
Yeah. Do you think that the relationship, the way that it is, and it just seems like it's kind of it's just gotten worse, and it's just severed even more with Rob Manfred as the commissioner? Is it that it is the commissioner, where we have a situation of where there's that trust, and that, where all of these challenges come about? Does it have to do with MLB, the commissioner, and maybe the Tony Clark? Where does it all come down to? Or because we did see some of this, but not as much with the previous commissioner. We're seeing how bad it has gotten with Rob Manfred as a commissioner.
There's so many cracks in this pavement. You call a road to getting to an MLB season. The relationship between Tony Clark, MLBPA director, and Rob Manfred, the MLB commissioner, things aren't good there. There's no love lost between those two men. And then you've got owners out here that clearly want to get as many games in as possible, to try to do what they can to make some money, to try to at least try to come close to making a profit. They want to get 162 in, but it's hard when everybody wants to get their part, and they want to get their part in. They want to get their word in. They want to get their say in. But it's so hard when you're fighting an unknown opponent in COVID, an opponent that just can branch off and do whatever it wants to at any given moment, and then it just wrecks all your plans. It wrecks your plans for trying to get 162 in, Joe. It wrecks your plans for trying to start spring training on time. It wrecks your plans for hopefully having an all-star game in Atlanta this year.
That's what I was just going to ask, all-star game. Yeah. And as you said, I was writing down my note as you said that. What does this mean for the all-star game? How is that going to be affected? Will we even have an all-star game? Will we go another year without the all-star game, home run, etc., like we did last season? It's set to be in Atlanta this season. We have all this happening right now, which there hasn't been any more rumblings about it. We'll see over the next few days what if MLB counter offers or what happens there, or if the season just ends up coming to a stop. We'll hear more. Knock on wood. Hopefully not.
Yeah. We just don't know a lot, Joe, because there's fluidity is the word that we always use when we talk about COVID and how it affects these professional sports these professional sports leagues, like with the NBA. I believe I read they've got 23 games already postponed this year. Yes. It just happens. The other night, the Pistons and the Nuggets, their game got canceled right before tip-off. The Pistons were getting ready for the game, Joe, and they found out the news that the game was being postponed. So this COVID thing, it does what it wants to do, and you're at the mercy of it. We're at the mercy of it as just regular citizens, and these professional athletes are at the mercy of it as well. The athletes, the owners, the management from all of these organizations, this is the look. You just throw your hands up and you're like, well, what can we do? Yeah. As much as we want COVID to go away and we see the cases and the numbers going down, that's no guarantee that it won't spike up again. That's just a reality. It could happen at any moment. So much that's happening with baseball right now. And yeah, hopefully we still get to have an all-star game. We still get to have, at least most of the games, even if it's not a whole 162, but we get the majority of them. It's just so unfortunate to see the relationship that it is with MLB and its players. It really is.
See something as unified as the NBA has with its players.
Yes,
and you can see Adam Silver with the players and how inclusive he makes those players feel, and ask for those opinions, and that inclusivity is there with the league. MLB.
And Johanna, and Johanna, how many times have we talked about the importance of Major League Baseball and the MLBPA and the players all coming together right now to try to make this sport better? Because right now it's lagging behind football. It's lagging behind the NBA. And honestly, I think it's lagging behind the NHL. The NHL puts out a great product as far as their sport is concerned. Watching a hockey game is exciting, especially once they get to the Stanley Cup. Once they get to the playoffs, that second season, it is phenomenal watching. So the playoff that Major League Baseball had last year did wonders for them. It was incredible. And the fact it was great that they let fans in for the World Series out down there in Arlington, but they can't let that momentum die. Coming off a great playoff series when they had an expanded playoffs, and you saw how many young baseball players that I'm sure quite probably some people didn't even know about. people that are curious about the game of baseball, because believe it or not, I'm sure there are people that are still curious about baseball. It is the nation's pastime, but there's still some people that have really soured on baseball, just simply because of everything that's happened as far as the relationships, and people just don't want to hear all this infighting and this bickering, this fighting back and forth. Now is the time for baseball to get their act together and get their product together and make it as good as great as they can, because once that CBA comes up, we don't know what the future of it is. But get your act together right now, get your product together and make it great again, because if you don't, you're going to lose more and more viewers. You're going to lose more and more fans to these stadiums. You're going to lose the interest is going to really continue to wane and die with Major League Baseball, because people are tired of that. They don't want to spend their money on a subpar product.
That's definitely true. I could not agree with you more there, Ed. And talking about product and talking more about baseball is the surprise, somewhat, not too much, but I was somewhat surprised that no one was elected to the Hall of Fame for the 2021 class. So we did have a conversation of those who were on the ballot and who had that potentially could reach that, but it was not going to be by any means easy for those that were on the ballot. But what does this now say of not only baseball, but the Hall of Fame and of its players, that they've been on the ballot for so long and time again? For one example, Curt Schilling, that we'll bring into the conversation, and it's been a topic of conversation for a few days now, and he's being asked to go ahead and be removed from the ballot. I believe our last show we mentioned that this was his 9th time on the ballot and only reaching about 75%, or not, no, being shy of that 75.
Actually, 71.1%, to be exact. That's what Schilling got.
Yeah, so you need the 75 as a threshold. He was just shy of that.
And then second behind him was Barry Bonds, and he was at 62%. He's nowhere close to 75%, and he may never get there.
No. So what does this mean? And those that are voting for these players. So, and I was watching one of the sport channels, and this is a question that I've had myself, and questioning if those that do vote for these players for the Hall of Fame that are on the ballot, is it supposed to be based on their time playing, them as their performance as an athlete, right? Not out, on the field and all of those things, not outside of baseball, not, yes, it probably may contribute a little bit, but not to where, bringing in something, as far as politics or anything like that. It's duly to be more of your performance and what you were able to accomplish during your career, and so forth. So for me, not having Curt Schilling be a Hall of Famer, and I would say being robbed of that, because I think being on a ballot for the 9th time, he should have way surpassed that way long time ago, because his resume speaks for it. Barry Bonds, on another hand, we know that relationship that he had with baseball, with the steroids and all of that controversy, media, everything. So that's totally, I would understand, we'll totally understand if he does not, get to the Hall of Fame. But to where does it, do you either draw a line or understand where these people voting, are they truly doing it because they're only looking at these factors and nothing more?
I think they're looking at more than just the numbers, and what Curt Schilling or Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens, who was also in his 10th year, they'll be in their 10th year next year for the 2022 Hall of Fame ballot. And I see some really good names that I know will make the Hall of Fame next year. Well, we'll talk about those. But do you think that some of the writers, that these writers and these voters, they have a personal vendetta potentially against Schilling or Bonds or Clemens because of potentially something that's maybe some run-ins they may have had in the past as far as being media members and covering these men. And Curt Schilling